You represent relatives in some way. You represent friends, acquaintances. We're thankful that you're here. My name is Calvin Fisher, and Larry Gorley, is a chaplain for hospice, and he visited with Joan and Dick and the family many times. And I've asked Larry if he would have opening prayer for this time together.
Gracious and compassionate God, we gather here a solemn and a sad day for those of us left behind. So many of us, including the entire hospice team, all of you fine people, the family, friends, everyone else, we will miss Joan. I ask you, Lord, to be with us as we mourn her death and as we realize this is also a celebration because Joan no longer is in any discomfort or any pain. And so until we meet Joan again, Lord, we ask you to be a living presence with all of us. Be with us and let us know that your Son and our Savior, Jesus, is always with us. Amen.
Jesus to come. And it's going to be up on the screen shortly, I hope. Are you read of the Bible? Is Jesus and how he died to save men? The scheme of salvation assures us he's coming back again. Are you ready for Jesus to come? Are you faithful in all that you do? Have you fought a good fight? Have you stood for the right? Have others seen Jesus in you? Are you ready to stand in your place? Are you ready to look in his face? Can you look up and say, "This is my Lord"? Are you ready for Jesus to come? Decline to the world and its treasure. This earth will soon pass away. Oh, give him your love without measure. He's calling you today. Are you ready for Jesus to come? Are you faithful in all see Jesus in you. Are you ready to stand in your place? Are you ready to look in his face? Can you look up and say, "This is my Lord"? Are you ready for Jesus to come?
Well, now you know why you're here. That smile always meant a lot to me. It was a deep one. I may have a hard time saying a few things, but I'll make it. The part that I'm happy with now is the fact that Satan can no longer trouble her life. She's on the waiting list. What we're going to do today, at least I am, is show you some pictures of her life. And we got together fairly early in life, so a lot of it is just not just Joan, it's Joan and me, and then the things that transpired. Okay. Just blink it. It's not blinking.
No, I did it. It is.
Can we start over? I'd like to talk about some of these pictures as we go through. And Raylene's going to blink the flashlight when it's time to change it. There we go. There's a text that means a lot. Okay, these people are some of Joan's family. There we go. On the left is her parents in the back, her grandparents in the front, Grandma Martindale sitting in the chair, Grandpa Martindale with the pitchfork. He was kind of the lone wolf in the family. When he would get into some kind of a problem, like fall a tree over the power line, he'd say to the family, "I'm headed to the Bering Straits," and he'd disappear for a while. Nobody knew where he went. And over on the right's Joe's folks. These people came into my life at a time when I needed direction. Dad was a builder. He built houses. So on breaks at college, he would give me work to do. And I would go back with a few dollars, pay my bills. Okay. There was a period when when the folks wanted to live in the country. So they bought some land out by Renton and built this cabin. It was kind of a primitive area. Dad had dug a garbage pit out there somewhere. Skunks were getting into it. And he couldn't figure out how the skunks got into it. One day he noticed that they were going into a tunnel on the other side of the driveway and coming out into the pit. So he gets a big rock and he stands over the edge of the pit when he saw a skunk go into that tunnel. And you know what? He missed. But the skunk left a tremendous amount of smell. They had to leave and go visit back in Seattle for a little while. We were cleaning out an old building behind the house one day, and the Jones folks. I came across this baby book, and it turned out to be her baby book for when she was born. So now we have proof. Okay. I got a bone to pick with mothers. You would never have seen this picture if Joan had been here. But you take and you strip all her clothes off, lay them on a blanket, and then later in life you tell them to cover up. There's the rear view. That's her sister, Janet, 5.5 years older. I was sure hoping when I saw this picture that somebody was standing down there at the bottom of the step. There's her sister, Janet. All of Joan's family are gone now. Here they are in a better picture. And this was Joan, I think, around 5. We got that picture at home. She went to school in Seattle at Seattle Junior Academy. And can you find her in there? She's second row, left side, fourth one. And right beside her is her best friend, Nancy. Nancy and her would sleepovers once in a while. And one time, Nancy was there on a sleepover, and Joan forgot to tell her about her pet white rat. It had a habit of escaping at night and crawling into Joan's bed and down inside her pajamas to keep warm. Nancy didn't stay in bed very long. I don't know the age of this picture, but I always liked it. There was Joan about the time high school came along. I met her in 10th grade. We were in an algebra class together. And algebra was totally foreign to Joan. She could not figure it out. So there was 4 or 5 of us sitting around there together. And the teacher never changed the seating arrangement because that was the only way Joan could get through algebra. As soon as he was done explaining, we'd gather in a circle and we'd coach Joan until she got the problems right. She had the same trouble when it came to American history. She could not understand it. She took copious notes, failed the final test, and the teacher said, "Well, show me your notes." So she showed him. She had a lot of notes. He said, "You passed." That's her grandmother's mother, her maternal grandma. Now this lady, I've got a story to tell you. When her husband left the family, she had to raise 5 kids. And she did it by doing, I don't know what you'll call it, but it was hot fomentations and things like that. And to help people get feeling better. Somehow she found out that I had a bad case of acne. Invited me down to her house. And she put compresses on my faces to get rid of the acne. I had to get permission from the dean to go down there. And I'd always go about dark. Because on the back of her house was a bedroom that Joan's dad had built on there so that she could stay and go to academy, stay with Grandma. So I made arrangements with the dean. Never did tell him that my girlfriend lived there. And Grandma would finish up with the treatment, grab a newspaper and sit behind it so that she could be there for emergencies, I guess. And we managed to get through about 2 years of that. There's Joan's family. Dad was quite a builder. He built that fireplace. It was open on 2 sides. Now, these people had made friends with some Adventist military boys at Fort Lewis. So on the weekend, the guys would get passes and come into Joan's home. And you never knew when they'd show up, or however they could get there. Might get up in the morning and find the floor covered with sleeping bags. And that was how Janet, Joan's sister, got her husband. She married one of those military boys. There's where I came into the picture. That's what she looked like. Now, I've got to tell you how we got acquainted. Joan's cousin Bob was a prankster. And I don't remember that he was in that algebra class or not, but there was another boy in our class, and he had been a missionary's son down in South America somewhere. he'd grown up around older people. He had a personality that was beyond his years, and the kids would tease him quite a bit. His name was Ron Bosford. So Bob thought he had a good idea for a joke. So he wrote a note to Ron signing Joan's name to it. And it was a nice note, and kind of encouraged Ron on. Well, in time, Bob made the arrangements that he would pass the notes back and forth. And in time, there was a banquet coming up. Well, Ron wanted to take a girl to the banquet. So he wrote a note asking Joan to go with him. Now Bob was really in trouble. How was he going to get away with this? He didn't know. He was stumped. Finally, I said, well, just tell Ron that Dick Robbins was going to take her. So I took her to the banquet, and we never stopped going to places since then. Pretty powerful looking, huh? That was a horse we bought for the girls. Name was Sitka. Don can tell you about riding her in the river. I'm sorry my pictures are not necessarily all chronological, but you get the idea. Now we come to another level of relationship. As Janet on the left, and then Joan. Joan at my wedding. Dad Dahlbeck, he knew what his wife would do when it came to a wedding. And so he told me, he said, I'll give you $5 or $500 if you guys will elope. He was pretty sure what his wife would spend, and it would be a lot more than $500. Now that little boy back there, we're getting ahead of me. His name was Carl. He was a cousin of Joan's. And he did not like to have all the restrictions. As you can see, he's kind of spaced out. When we knelt for a prayer, all over that church, loud and clear, you could hear, "Can we go now?" That's my little half sister. I don't know if you've ever read any books by Leroy Froome. This is his son, Leroy Froome, Jr. Joan still has that wedding dress. Never wore it again. There's my sister and brother on the left. Now they're on the right. Oh, I've got some stories to tell you. Here's one. My mother was asked to be one of the ladies to help open the presents. And so while everything was going on in a formal way, Mom and the other ladies were down opening all these gifts. And there was a box there, a cardboard box. They opened it up, and wow. It was stuff, it was from Joan's grandpa, Martindale, the one with the pitchfork back there. He was a scrounge, and he'd been through a dump somewhere, and he found some good things. There was a jar of jam with wax over the top like they used to do, and then a little mold under that, but you could always scrape that out. Everything in that box was similar type, second-hand, some first-hand, but it was all good stuff. One of the things that we got at that wedding was a waffle iron. And I think it was an exchange. He took it back and exchanged something else for the waffle iron, because we don't have a picture of the waffle iron, but that waffle iron is still going good. Brandon cleaned it all up the other day, and it's just like brand new. But that was Grandpa Martindale. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about this car. This was her folks' car. And after we were married, they gave that car to us, so that was our first car after marriage. Studebaker. Now, there was the Model A. That was my car. My dad gave that to me when I was 14. And we spent a lot of time touring around the country. And then one time, I had a cousin over there at the academy. She was the same age as me. And one weekend, we took off and went to college place in it. And I had a little device on there that you could pull a string and it would sound like a siren. Or if you did it just right, it could sound like a wolf whistle. Well, my cousin had learned how to make the wolf whistle sound. As we were coming back through, I think it was Prosser. The highway in those days went through town. We came around the corner, and there was a lady on the right there in the yard, summertime. She's wearing a pair of short shorts, weeding her flower garden. So Lynn reached over and gave a wolf whistle. And that lady stood up like you had shot her and turned around, and it was an old grandma. I told her, I said, you made her day. Well, these old Model A's had a rumble seat in the back. And when we were last day of school, we were going to go into Seattle to be at our parents' place. And Grandma Martindale was going to ride in with us. And those Fords weren't very wide. And you get two people up there, and you've got a crowd already. So we couldn't put Grandma in the trunk. They called that a mother-in-law seat. So here we sat. We had three of us up there. And the rear main seal on that those motors was just a special rope-like seal, and it had been leaking oil down onto the clutch. So when you let out the clutch, it would jerk and jerk and jerk until you could get your foot off the clutch and go smooth. Well, Grandma wasn't too excited about all that jiggling. But that was my first car. I can't believe how young I looked. When I was at the academy, I had acquired a pair of clippers that belonged to my grandfather. And so I didn't have any source of income for cash. I cut the guy's hair in the dorm for 25 cents a head. And I told Joan, I said, when you get married, I'll cut your hair for you. Doesn't look like she was excited, does it? Baby number one. I have a story to tell here. That's Valerie. And when she was born, I was in the delivery room with the doctor there. And so while they were cleaning everybody up, I went back to the waiting room, and then the doctor showed up. He noticed that the baby's head looked really long, odd-shaped. And he came out and he said, "Don't worry." He said, "She's been down in the birth canal for a while and her head's going to look a little bit elongated." So I went to a phone and called my mom. She said, "No, I want you to call me as soon as the baby's born." She said, "How does she look?" I said, "Looks fine, except her head looks like a cucumber." Here's all three of them. Three musketeers. We found this limb in a tree where we were camping. Can you pick out who's who there? Don on the right, Valerie in the middle, and Julie on the left. This was our 80th. I don't know what year it was. Anyway, it was an anniversary. Now, can you imagine anybody more smug? She didn't like the water. It was too cold. There's the whole family again. You recognize that top one on the left? You may not know her. That's Angie. Angie's one of our daughters, too. I was teaching 7th grade one year when Angie was in my class. And there were 4 sisters. and they were living with grandparents. And I don't know the history there, but Grandma showed up at my classroom door when school was out, and she said, "We're looking for homes for the girls. Would you take Angie?" That's a decision you don't make without talking to your wife about it. So I went to the phone and called Joan, and she said, "Well, bring her home and give her a try." Well, she's still with us. Has been a good sister to the girls, a good big sister. Looks like she's from Mars. This is Connie. Connie was a student of mine on Guam, and we talked to her with her parents and said that if they wanted to send her back with us, we'd put her through school. All the kids out there don't get a chance to go to college and so forth, but we got her back here to the States. She lasted a couple of weeks, and she got so homesick, we let her go home. That's my dad, Stepana, Valerie, and Heather. Now, let's swing to the other side of the world. And when Dawn and Ray went to the Philippines, Joan and I took a summer and went out to visit. And it's a real tough trail getting in there. You got to hike about 5 hours. For me, it was longer. And at the end of the trail, Ray had built this bench, because this was kind of an intersection between two trails, and it was underneath a mango tree, and he felt like people could just sit there and rest and enjoy it. So it wasn't this trip, it was another trip. I went out, and Dawn was battling Anyway, everybody was getting sick and losing all their goodies. And couldn't figure out what was going on, but it was happening all over the area. One day it dawned on her why it was happening. She had a little kitchen workbench out there. Dawn always liked to rough it, and so she had an outdoor kitchen. And there was, on the post she put into the ground, there was limbs sticking out, and so she would hang her cups on those limbs. Well, when people come along here and they sit on that bench and rest, they were thirsty. So they'd go over to the 5-gallon can, which had got water out of the creek, fill one of those cups and drink it, and then hang the cup back on the pig. And so that gave Dawn a clue where the diarrhea was all coming from. They just passed it from one to the next. that snowball tree pretty? You can tell who's getting old in that picture. Joan, when she died, still had a hard time finding any gray hair. Now I need to tell you about the story that was here. When we were in the academy and we'd made up our plans to get married, we thought we better tell her folks. And so they had come out to the academy. We all got in a Studebaker and went for a ride Sabbath afternoon. And before they left us off at the school again, I told the folks, I said, I've got something I want to tell you. I said, your daughter and I would like to get married, as if they didn't know that. And I said, we'd like your blessing. Dad was in the front seat. He turned around and he said, do you realize how much nylons cost? Look at those faces. How many? Only I didn't ever wear nylons. I used to tease him about that, but he never could remember. This is Joan on, what do they call it? Journey to Bethlehem. This was, I believe, at Amber's wedding. I'd like to leave you with an invitation to be faithful. Meet Joan and I when the Lord comes. We'll be ready there. That's the picture that I like to remember of her of. I have no idea what she was looking for. There's the one most of you will remember her by. And then her legacy continues. This is Don and Ray's grandchild, 1 year old. Can you picture a more delighted, smug face than that? Now, here's a couple you will know about. This is Isla. She could fold clothes fast. And then Asher, he was good with a telephone. He could make that little hand work just fine. One day I was watching him make the telephone. He even had his thumb going there. Well, that's it, folks. I enjoyed a life with Joan. She was a wonderful companion. Okay, now let's find out if there's other people that want to talk, since I've done it all.
So this is your opportunity to share. If you'd, I'm sorry, I totally got hooked. Yeah, special music, like I was saying.
Hello, everybody. So a privilege to be able to be sharing this song with everybody, because it's such an amazing hope that we have, that this world is not our home. We're just passing through. And so I knew Joan just for a short period of time, because when Julie came down to visit toward the end of her life, she was needing someone to help her and drive her. And so God just had me come into the mix for a while, and I got really, really special times with the family during that time, and just seeing how much love Joan had around her and how much just hope of this, like I said, this world not being our home. So there's pain and sadness and grief and loss, but at the same time, Jesus lifts us above that, so we have a way of escape so that we're able to bear it. So I pray that you'll all be blessed by this song.
This was also one of Joan's favorite hymns. There's a list of her favorites, and this is one, Until Then. It says, until the day my eyes behold the city, until the day God calls me home. And so we're looking forward to that time when we'll be reunited with her. And she's not suffering anymore. And so we have a lot to look forward to. My heart can sing when I pause to remember. A heartache here is but a stepping stone along the trail that's winding always upward. This troubled world is not my final home. But until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on. Until the day my eyes behold that city. Until the day God calls me home. The things of earth will dim and lose their value if we recall they're borrowed for a while. And things of earth that cause the heart to tremble, remember there will only bring a smile. But until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on. Until the day my eyes behold that city. Until the day God calls me home. Until the day God calls me home.
And now it's sharing time. So if you have a story, a memory that you'd like to share, raise your hand. We'll get you a mic. I will start by saying thank you for sharing lifetime memories. Especially for those of us that came into your circle late and didn't know all the history, but life well lived.
The first time I had a Bible study was Joan was involved in that. I was asked by a man that went to church with me here when I first started going to church, and he invited her so we wouldn't be there alone. And she just, there was just something about Joan that it just made you feel like you were family. So she ended up being my best friend. And she would be the one, if I had a question, didn't matter what kind of question it was, I trusted her to answer it in a godly way. And she did every single time. And she had so much kindness in her. I just felt like two peas in a pod. I got to stay with them for about how long was it? A week or two before I got my roommate. And from then on, they've been very special family to me, all of them. I love all you guys very, very much. There's a lot more, but I don't think I'd be able to blubber it out.
Hi, I'm Fred Reimer from Zilla. Dick and Joan were very, very special to us there at Zilla. When they were there, Dick was the head elder at the church, and he would have elders' meetings in the evening after work, and Joan would always fix us a wonderful meal. Joan was full of encouragement. Every time that I saw her, she would say, "Fred, you did something." I don't remember what, but she was so encouraging all the time. She is so missed.
My name is Jennifer Smith. We live up past Dick and Joan. And 26 years ago, Dick and Joan came down to look at some property down by us. And at that point, we were the only ones who lived up at the end of the road, on the road at all. And I happened to be pregnant and very sick with my first daughter. And my husband had gone to the dump, and I was laying on the couch. And I heard a knock at the door. So I got up, went to see who it was, opened the door. It's these complete strangers. I pass out, and I fell out the door at their feet. And so the next thing I know, they've hauled me back into the house and put me on the couch, and my husband comes home, and there's these people in the house that he doesn't know, and his wife is on the couch. And that was how we met Dick and Joan. And then they, bought property up by us and moved and have lived there ever since. And I had my daughter, and then we had two more daughters. And Dick and Joan both were an extra set of grandparents for our daughters. And they've been a part of their lives the entire time the girls have been growing up. And so we will miss Joan, in that role, as well as being, amazing neighbors.
Jennifer is the only woman other than my wife that ever fell for me. There's more, but I've forgot what it was now.
I want to tell you a memory I have of Mom when I was a little girl, probably 4 or 5. Now, there were 3 little girls in the house at that time, and she was a busy lady. But every evening, I was the youngest in the family, so littlest at that time, and she would take the time to wash my face at night. We lived on what we used to call little gentlemen's farms, 5, 10 acres or 2 acres or whatever it was. And so we'd all be playing outside and getting dirty and everything during the day. But she always made sure that she washed my face before I went to bed. And I remember it as the gentlest touch and the most loving look in her eyes and on her face as she would slowly wash my face and talk to me. It was such a special time between a mom and a daughter. And I remember to this day what it felt like as she washed my face. So that's always a memory that I will carry of her.
That doesn't surprise me a bit. That sounds just like the Joan that I knew.
There's another thing that I should mention about Joan. She was Sabbath school leader one time, and it came time for electing officers like teachers and so on. And we had a couple of younger men in church that just kind of would sit back and didn't really get involved to Joan's level of thinking. She worked on those two guys, and pretty soon they were busier than all get out. They are leaders in the church today, and they have Joan to thank for it.
Joan was my sister-in-law, and we were at a Heritage Singer concert in Vancouver, Washington. And I don't know if I was sitting there fidgeting or whatever, but Joan had grown up in the Seattle area where things were done a little more proper. And she said, "You need to sit up straight, and this is how you fold your hands, like a nice young lady. And you don't cross your legs. You cross them at the ankles if you need to cross them at all." And over the next few weeks, she gave me all sorts of proper etiquette that I taught my 4 girls. And I'll always be grateful for her.
Dick and Joan were members of our church in Zilla, and at times they would leave and come back, and I was up in front leading, and not everybody knew who they were. So I was going to make the big introduction and let people know that Dick and Joan were sitting towards the back and who they were. And we've been in, my wife and I and Dick, we've been in education, so we know something about, books and things that happen in elementary school. And my big introduction was Dick and Jane, the reading books from way back when. And after that, they still spoke to me, and they teased me about it, but they were very good about it. Appreciate that.
Well, when we first moved here, I think I was like 12 or 13, and shortly after that, I had been playing piano and everything, and Joan, she really liked music and playing piano and organ, and she donated her organ to me to start learning, and that's how I got into learning the organ, and really blessed by her and Dick. He also came out and helped us build a garden one year, and been special like Grandma and Grandpa to us. So really appreciate them both, and gonna really miss Joan.
I don't know why I keep remembering Mom and water at the same time, but 3 things with water. A memory I have in our Winesap Road Milton Freewater home. Our grandparents brought the little girls and not Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck sprinkler or sprayer so we could run through it. And I remember many hours when on the summer days when Mom would say, "Who wants to go through the sprinkler?" And it was Mom trying to get us out of the house and out from under her feet. And another time I remember the water. I've forgotten one of them, so I'm going to tell you the third one. We lived up on Weston Mountain outside of Milton Freewater. when I was maybe 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And we ran out of water. We didn't have any water on the place. And so what do you do with a family and garden and all of that? Well, we had a rock pond not too far up the road. So you don't do washing that, but hey, taking a bath, there was a rope swing. So you use a rope swing to get in the water, get all wet, come back out, get all soaped up, get on the rope swing again, jump in. Mom had this all figured out. So it worked very well until we got water.
I'll tell you about a dog we had. There was a point when Joan said, you know, the kids need a dog. I wasn't too sure about it. So I looked and found an advertisement for free puppies. I drove to it, and it had to be a farm. And the pups were, 6, 8 weeks old. So I picked one and took it home, and kids promptly named it Missy. And Missy became family. I mean, we're not just talking friends. She was family. You could tell her, give her a command, and she seemed to figure out what you wanted. And she'd always do it. One day, there was a bunch of visitors, kids, our kids' age, all there, all going over toward the woods. There was a trail behind the house. And Missy was just jumping and excited and having so much fun with company that I thought, oh boy, I don't want her going off the place, because I never tied her up, didn't have to. But she was too busy playing to notice. So I called her to me, and I said, Missy, little girl, you've come too far. You better go back to the house. Oh, she turned and walked back to the house with her tail down. And another time, we were going to Seattle to visit Joan's folks, and I was loading up the trunk of the car with suitcases and boxes. And the dog, wanted to go. She always went with us, but this particular time I was going to leave her home. So I said, Missy, little girl, you're going to have to stay home this time. Oh, there went that sad tail look again. And she slunk around the house. I went in, got the last load, brought it out, just put it in the trunk to slam the trunk lid, and here's about 3-4 inches of the tail end of her tail sticking out from behind those boxes. She figured if she got there, she wouldn't have to go back. So I took her. And then one time we were in the house in the evening, wrestling around on the carpet. And I noticed when I started tickling Joan that Missy didn't like it. She began barking. And I thought, well, this girl she's going to back up Joan. I wonder how far she'll go. Big mistake. I kept it up. And she let out one big bark, grabbed my wrist in her mouth, but not to hurt it. She grabbed it and let me know that I had passed the limit.
My name's George. I went to school with Dick and Joan back in 56, somewhere in there. But then I went my way, and I never knew them again until I moved here to this town. And I got to really get to know Dick and Joan a way different perspective than when we was kids. And Joan always impressed me. She always liked outreach, I think one-on-one with people. And so about a week or two before she passed, I was up visiting both. And I told Joan, I said, Joan, you always like to reach out to people. That's always made you happy. And I said, even though you can't hardly do nothing now, you're getting close to where you get to rest until Jesus comes. But God is still using you. Because Holly was there taking care of Joan. Joan is showing Holly how to live. And the look on Joan's face when I told her that, and Joan realized God was still using her. I never seen such a satisfied look on Joan's face. I thought, wow. And Dick was smiling.
You're going to make me start crying too.
Hi, I married into the family, which I'm very happy about. Grandma was incredible. And I got to make a lot of memories with her over the last several months. Somewhere along the way from October until she passed, I started baking and cooking more. And Grandma loved mashed potatoes and gravy. And so I'm like, I'm going to make her mashed potatoes and gravy from scratch today. So I did. When she got done, I was like, how was it, Grandma? It was good. I like Brandon's mashed potatoes better, though. I'm like, Grandma, I made them from scratch. It wasn't even from a box today. She's like, oh, they were good. You might not think that she was very mischievous, but she had a mischievous streak. Before Brandon and I were even engaged, I got Brandon a cat to take on the road, which happened to be around the same time that Grandma and Grandpa's cat, Lucky, had passed away. And so Grandpa had sent out an email to the entire family saying, do not bring any animals and leave them here ever again. Well, I decided I needed to bring the cat over to meet Grandma and Grandpa before Brandon got the cat. And Grandma's like, that cat is not staying here. I'm like, it's not for you. So her and I came up with a plan to give it to Brandon, and Brandon thought it was a joke on Grandma, and turns out that Grandma had a pretty mischievous streak as far as tricks and stuff too.
I don't know if you're all through yet or not, but I want to thank everybody for coming, for the church, and having a special remembrance of Joan. Joan was more than just my wife. She was a special companion, and she had the ability to keep me on the straight and narrow, which I needed quite often. 66 years of marriage, and I'm so glad that I've had that experience.
And now I invite you to turn in the hymnals to hymn number 214. We have this hope. It's a hope that we share with Joan. Hymn number 214. Please stand.
We have this hope that burns within. springs within our hearts. Hope in the coming of the Lord.
If we could bow our heads and we'll have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, you never intended for us to say goodbye or until next time. And we just thank you for being here with us as we take the opportunity to celebrate the life of Joan, to comfort her family, to comfort each other, to look to you for that blessed hope. We thank you for the gift of salvation and for the hope that this sleep is not eternal and that it won't be long. We ask that you would continue to be with us as we break from the celebration of Joan's life, that you would continue to comfort the family, the extended family, the friends, and the church family, and continue to remind us that looking to Christ for our example, that we have this blessed hope to look forward to of eternal life with you and with each other. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.